This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning again, everyone. This is Blake with Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I have 9 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Just as a reminder, please try to stay on mute as much as possible so we don't have any background noise. And with that, I will turn it over to Chair Rotter to get us started.
Thank you, Blake. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Iowa 911 Communications Council meeting for June 10th, 2021. We'll call this meeting to order. Kara, would you please give us a roll call to see if we have a quorum?
Yes, I will. Tracy Bearden. Lawrence Hartpence. Mike Bryant.
Present.
Mark Murphy. Jeff Anderson. I think I saw Mindy Benson is on. I think she's his alternate. Mindy, are you here? If Jeff doesn't pop in.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Richard Pierce. Rob Dennert.
Here.
All right, we have Jack D'Angelo and George Griffith excused. Taylor Teeple. All right, I'll go back up. Lawrence Hartpence, are you on? Or Mark Murphy? Right now we're short if I don't get a couple people, Chair.
Okay. Well, we will move on. We just won't take any action, of course. We have an agenda that we'll use. I have no way to approve that agenda, but we will follow it, and we will deal with the May 13th minutes at a later time. And with that, we'll just...
Mr. Chair, I do see Tracy Bearden in the list of people who are on. I don't know if she can't get off mute or...
Okay.
Yeah, Tracy, your green microphone even lit up, but I can't hear you. Are you on double mute?
All right, with Tracy, I show we have 6. I still need 2 more.
I just sent a message to Lawrence to see if he's joining.
Tracy did comment that she'll call in.
I will also send something to Mark Murphy.
Okay. Okay, well, if we want to go ahead with Blake's report, and if we do have a couple more people check in, we can go back and deal with those other agenda items. So, Blake, you want to go ahead?
Certainly, I can go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone. There are some significant updates that I'll need to cover today. First, for those PSAP folks, you may have noticed over the last month and a half or so, there have been kind of an increased number of EZNet service disruptions. The network has worked as designed as far as reroutes and 911 calls getting answered, but there have been kind of some significant reroutes during those occasions. So I have the ICN staff on here to kind of talk through what's going on from their perspective and kind of talk through the improvement plan. Randy Goddard is the executive director of ICN. Randy, do you want to kind of explain what's been going on over the last month and a half or so?
Absolutely. Thanks, Blake. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, folks. And again, just quick introduction. As Blake said, I'm the executive director at the Iowa Communications Network. Past history, worked quite a bit while I was at Homeland Security and worked with Blake for many years. Also have online with me Scott Papan, who's my Chief Technology Officer. So the big picture, he gets it with technology. I have Mike Lauer, that I'm sure you folks have talked with many times in the past for the historical and the architecture, how the EZNet is built out. Mike brings that to the table with this. Stephen Rodriguez as a project management that's been assisting Mike with the implementation and the cutovers. And then also Tammy Rodriguez is also online with us as the account consultant that Blake and Homeland Security worked with on any types of orders or changes. When a PSAP would relocate, she would be the one that they initially are contacting. And she also works as that customer liaison on any type of news that's going on back or forth. But more importantly, we're here today to talk about the recent outages. I'm going to put it in two simple areas that we've gotten this rounded down to, attributed to the two factors. The first one is a logical protocol failure. What that is it's the core switches within the network, that are placed throughout the state. They've been having a problem of not rerouting and bringing up the circuits back up. It should be instantaneously, like milliseconds is what we're talking, how fast this should happen. What's happening is it's loading up the CPUs is what's happening. So we are working with Juniper, and I'll go a little bit more into the resolution as will Scott, as far as our, what corrective actions in more detail. But so Juniper is the vendor. Again, Juniper is a very large company. It's one of probably the top three in that top tier of telecom transport equipment vendors. The good thing is they are engaged with us. They are not trying to pass the buck on this one. They're looking at all types of issues on this one and helping us out. The second issue, which we're working on already, is there's a crushed fiber. Back in May 27th, which when Blake refers to about a month and a half, there was a window. There's some fiber that goes from Joint Forces headquarters, which is one of our primary switching sites, that was had some damage done. Well, we went in there and spliced it, and they're still continuing to do construction in that area. And we continue to see our field technicians are seeing line loss on that. So we've got them out there today. We believe the conduit's crushed, so they're trying to blow. There's additional room in there. They're trying to blow a tether through there to find where that is crushed. The hard thing, intermittent outages are the toughest one. You go out there, everything looks normal. Then an hour later, as soon as they run a compactor or an excavator in that area, it starts vibrating that ground, which the fiber is that sensitive. But anyway, those are the two primary factors that have been identified. As I said, we've done escalations, and we have good response from both Juniper as well as our FNS, which is our field services contractor that takes care of us. So FNS is, again, they're out there. They believe they've got it fairly well isolated, but they're trying to get it back down to that small area so we can pull in a new, it's a high count, 96 count fiber through there to get that respliced in there. The second one is, again, as I mentioned, Juniper. We're having daily meetings with Juniper. They're network folks that are, we escalated it to the North American vice president of their company, who's engaged Juniper Technical Assistance Center. Their line manager, which the line manager is essentially, we've got two big boxes out there that do the core switching for us. A 960 and a 480 are their model numbers. But these folks are, they're the black belts of this equipment. So they've engaged. After yesterday, they're going to work on some code to hopefully lessen some of the logical protocol failures that we're seeing out there. But again, that's kind of in a quick wrap up where we've seen the problems, where we're going. Scott, you want to go into a little more detail on resolution and timelines?
Yeah, not a problem. This is Scott Papan. Yeah, what we look at is the fiber loss, and we knew it's actually in here in JFHQ and Lucas. It's also connecting our 100 gig that comes from JFHQ over to Newton, which goes to Tiffin to Cedar Rapids, which connects us east to west. So what's happening is we're actually blowing it today to see where it is. The severity we know it's crushed was also during one of the outages. We saw the circuit bounce 129 times in 26 minutes. I didn't think that was physically possible, but we did see that. So what's going to happen here is we're going to blow it in today. We're going to have one more change. We're going to replace all the fiber on that I guess, part of the 6,500 square feet or 6,500 feet. And then we will resplice that. That will probably be one more outage to offset that in the future. Just be aware of that, but it'll be a planned outage. At that point in time, also, we also recognize that the interoperability issue is where anywhere in the path where an MLX, which is our old core equipment, exists, is where it has the LSP that seems to fail. So what we've done is we've identified that, for instance, I'll use an example of Homeland Security. They sitting on 3940 in JFHQ, they connect to the MLX, which connects back to the core. I already have plans and engineering being designed to take those 5 VPLSs off the MLX, and we're going to connect you guys directly to the Sienna, to the MX, which is Juniper box, so we can avoid that LSP going down as well. Then we're also looking at other areas in the network where we can improve upon removing any type of path and taking off the MLX, or in this case, the Brocade. For instance, the City Armory is in the mix. We're going to do a bypass and bypass the MLX altogether, which will help that. And then, as well as we've had help with, and that should all happen within probably the next 1 to 2 weeks in terms of timetables. And the next thing is we're expecting a list of commands that we can add to the configuration of our boxes that will also keep the LSPs up. And we're
Sorry if I'm interrupting, but I might have lost sound. Did anybody else lose sound?
Yes.
I lost sound.
I did
I
too.
sent a message to Blake.
Okay.
Blake, this is Rob. Can you hear us?
Hey, everyone. I'm starting to maybe hear some audio come back. Can you hear me?
We can.
I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what was going on with that.
Lauren, what happened? Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
I don't know. My all the whole Teams meeting just started circling
Yeah, that that was weird. I don't know if that was a go-to meeting or
because
I don't know.
Randy I think got dropped as well. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll start over. I'll repeat myself. That's funny. Okay, so what's happening here is I'm going to start over. The fiber crush, we recognize that that is actually the whole entire sheath of fiber, because our major connection also going from Lucas, I'm sorry, not to Lucas, but from JFHQ to Tiffin to Newton to Tiffin to Cedar Rapids is also affected by that as well. So we know that the fiber has to be replaced. So I have actually an FNS staff dispatched this morning. They're going to blow through that to see where the connection is. At that point in time, we are going to have a scheduled change, emergency change, to go in and actually replace all of the fiber. The fiber runs about 6,500 feet. We're not going to take a chance. We're going to replace the whole entire thing. That being said, we also recognize, and that will happen within the next couple of days. I hope to have done by Friday. Okay, the next thing, which is going to take a little bit more time, we have all our logs, all our records, and everything in our network diagrams at the highest level possible with Juniper. The last outage, I may have gotten a little excited. I had Juniper's JTAC, their highest tier 3 support. I made them get on the call and help us with the outage so they could see it themselves. And that gave them a much better understanding of the event. That being said, we recognize that all the LSPs or the logical circuits that are going down are anywhere where they touch an MLX in the network, which is our old Brocade equipment. If it just goes Juniper to Juniper, we're not seeing any outages at all. So now we have to go back and do a reevaluation, especially when it comes to 911, and move those circuits so they don't touch the MLX. I'll use an example of one. Right now, JFHQ, Homeland Security touches what they call a Sienna 3960 or 40, and then that connects to the MLX, which connects into the network. We're going to, right now, we're going to take the 5 BPLSs that connect into that Sienna box. We're going to repoint them and put them right off to the Juniper directly, so we alleviate that point of contention with the interoperability. We also recognize that there's an MLX at the City Armory. We're going to do a bypass of that box altogether in the network. Those engineering orders are going in as we speak. And then there are other ones that we can do to secure downtown in the complex, not necessarily relevant to Homeland, but we're doing those as well. Okay, those then on top of that, when we do the failover protocol, that we're waiting for a response for the next couple of days from Juniper. When we get that line code or line configuration changes, we'll have to go in and schedule a network change, emergency change, to go into all the boxes and add that code to alleviate the box from flapping and going down. What's happening today is that when it sees an outage and it sees something go down, it's calculating the whole entire network as a whole of all the millions and millions of possibilities, permutations, combinations, which can do the route. What it does is it's taking in so much information, it's overloading the CPU, then it never gets to the point to where it actually truly flips the circuit to the open circuit, when we have to contain that. And there are different protocols that we can use and add to the mix that will limit that into groups, which will keep it by region, not by the whole entire state. And by making a smaller decision, it will happen faster and thus move forward and work correctly. And that may take anywhere from 1 week to maybe up to a month, which we're hoping it's only a week, and we get the code back quickly, and then you'll see the emergency changes as they come through. Does that help you? I should ask. And I hope I didn't talk too fast.
No, you're good. Thank you, Scott and Randy. I think, what we have seen so far is probably 4 or 5 of these service disruptions, and the net result is it's unplanned. About an hour and a half of an issue where calls are rerouting. And
in the hour is actually the process, the problem of the CPU. When the CPU loads up with all those combinations, it takes an hour to clear. And then at that point in time, we can clear the LSPs and bring the circuits up. And that's why the time frame is what it is.
Yep. Thanks again, Scott. And I was more kind of talking through this for the PSAP, so they kind of know, what has been going on, what they have seen may be reflected in what's going on, technically. But obviously it has our attention, it has ICN's attention and Juniper's attention. And I wanted to provide that update because I know I've been contacted a number of times by PSAPs asking kind of what's going on. And that kind of goes to a couple things, that normally the network is so reliable that when something like this happens, it is noticeable. And it clearly, again, has our attention and the staff at ICN's attention. So appreciate your guys' participation and giving us kind of the technical background of what's going on. Does anyone have any questions on that, kind of going forward over the next week to a month of the improvement plan that ICN outlined?
Blake, this is Trisha with the IUB, and I was just, I'm sorry, but I didn't catch, I was taking some notes there, and I didn't catch the actual area that this has been happening in Iowa. I heard Tiffin.
Yeah, but actually the actual point of contention for the fiber is actually about 12,500 feet outside of JFHQ. That's the fiber where the construction is happening in Johnston.
Okay,
but that's our main connection that comes up that path through Beaver, which actually connects across to Newton, to Tiffin, to Cedar Rapids. That's our 100 gig link.
And I would say, as far as PSAPs go, it's kind of been a moving target.
Yes.
We've seen anywhere from 20 to 30 PSAPs kind of impacted, and what we have seen as far as 911 call delivery, kind of sites will come up and go back down and then go back up.
Yeah.
So I would say, and Kara added this too, it does seem to be a little bit more on eastern Iowa, but it has been kind of a moving target.
Right. That's because that connection from JFHQ is 100 gig that goes through Tiffin, and that's where the other connection comes through Tiffin to Cedar Rapids. That's why it's affecting the east side.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? All right, if not, I will move on. I briefed previous couple 911 council meetings about the Comtech wireless operating system upgrade. That did take place on May 25th. And really what that did or does is it brings the wireless operating system in line with what the wireline network has been operating on. It's basically an enhancement to the next gen core services platform. That happened again the overnight of May 24th into the 25th. And we sent out some messaging about that. That went mostly as planned. There was about a 10-minute period where calls alt routed, and again, that was not intended. It was not part of the project, but everything restored. And again, no 911 calls were dropped during that time. They just might have been rerouted. So, adding to the last month and a half or so of technical stuff to bring to your attention, I wanted to point that out as well. But at this point, it is stable, and everything is operating as it should be. And again, kind of gets us an enhancement on the wireless platform as well. Moving on into the number of significant things to talk about today. A handful of PSAPs have reached out to our office. I would say between 5 and 10. With concerns about a sharp increase in wireline cost recovery prices or invoices, and this is specifically tied to those who have Windstream as a service provider. Without going into too many details, I have been trying to come up and work with some of the PSAPs and with Windstream with kind of a process to send out where PSAPs can identify if that infrastructure is actually still needed. In a number of PSAPs, we've kind of gone through a process, and it's a very kind of manual, labor-intensive process to try to figure out if that infrastructure, if those circuits are still needed. And in most cases, what we've determined is that they are probably not needed anymore, which then kind of alleviates the concerns about those sharp tariff increases. But we haven't really gotten to a point where there is a good process which I can document and provide that kind of best practices or step-by-step effort of what PSAPs need to take to try to go through and see if they can remove those circuits. So just know that I have that in kind of a draft form. I want to be able to provide you some guidance on that process, on if you can get those removed and then that cost goes away. But I wanted to bring it up in this setting. One of the questions here is, sorry, it just disappeared off my screen. Will this have any effect on telco costs other than Windstream? Right, and that's kind of my next bullet point too. Right now what we've seen is about a 400% increase at some PSAPs from Windstream specifically. So that is a tariff that, as we've gone through, we've asked the Attorney General about it. We've asked the Office of Consumer Advocate. IUB is aware, asked questions of the FCC, and everything was done appropriately from Windstream's point of view with filing that tariff rate with the FCC. So now we are going through and seeing, is that infrastructure even needed? If it's not, get it disconnected, and that cost then goes away. So again, right now it's specific to Windstream, and like I said, I've heard from maybe 5 to 10 PSAPs, and probably 2 or 3 have successfully gotten that infrastructure removed. But again, that is not done, lightly. You'll want to make sure that nothing is on that circuit before it gets removed, obviously. Otherwise, you could take down 911 from a certain exchange or something. So again, I'm trying to formulate a best process or best practice to get that removed, and just it's not quite polished enough to send out, but I am working on that. So if you have seen that tariff increase and you haven't gotten in touch with me, you may want to do that, and we can kind of talk through some steps and get you added to the list of PSAPs that are concerned about that. Related to that, just a reminder of the letter that we sent out now about 2 months ago with the Iowa Communications Alliance as well. And that really kind of goes back to the same thing. The whole point of the wireline migration was to alleviate some of those costs. associated with wireline cost recovery. So if you go back to that letter, we're kind of in the phase right now where telcos are supposed to be, and what we've asked them to do is modify their billing practices to categorize costs in a more standardized fashion. What we were noticing is these costs were getting called a whole host of different things, and it was really hard to cut through what was actually 911 related and what the costs actually were. So over the last month and a half, PSAPs and telcos were supposed to be getting together and talking about what was actually needed, disconnecting what wasn't needed. That's happened, I think, maybe to a point, but by all means, let me know how that's going. And now we're kind of to the point where telcos are supposed to be kind of modifying their billing practice, and after that, PSAPs are supposed to send us copies of their bills so we can aggregate what that cost looks like statewide. We just don't have a good way of determining that. Most of the time, the customer relationship is with the PSAP and the telco, so we're not privy to that information unless it gets sent to us by the PSAP. So just a reminder of where we're at on that. At this point, I've probably heard back from 10 to 15 PSAPs, kind of with varying success rates of what we've asked for. I guess if you have any questions on that, feel free to get with me offline, and I can talk you through kind of what we're asking for. Also related to that topic, when the PSAPs completed the wireline migration, we sent out information on how to disconnect the legacy CAMA and ALI circuits from Lumen or CenturyLink. And we continue to kind of hear and see that a lot of PSAPs have not done that. There is really no question or doubt that that can be done. There's no reason not to do that, and it alleviates some of those bills that, again, were kind of the whole point, the whole goal behind this project. So it really does behoove your PSAP to get those removed. And again, if you need any of those steps or have any questions on how to do that, don't hesitate to reach out. Any questions on any of the wireline migration cost stuff? Okay, moving on. Last month, there was a question, and it was a good one, asking if telcos could stop dual provisioning. And at that point, we were really hoping to get out notification within really the week to be able to do that. Some of the technical folks within Comtech kind of wanted to take a quick step back and make sure that we were really ready to do that. I do continue to kind of push folks on this. I understand that from the telco's perspective, this is a burden. And, for the last year or so, they have been dual provisioning their ALI information, both with the legacy Intrado Lumen database as well as the new Comtech database. Completely understand that you're tired of doing that and wanting to get something out that indicates that you can stop dual provisioning. I do think we're close. I know Lumen and Comtech kind of have a meeting scheduled to make sure everyone's in alignment and giving the thumbs up that can be stopped. So hopefully this time for real, within the next month or so, we'll be able to send out notice to the telcos that they can stop dual provisioning their ALI and just provision it in the Comtech database going forward. The next bullet item there, and I sent out an email about this earlier this week. It just seemed like there was just maybe more housekeeping than anything. We have had a change request process in place for the last 10 years or so. It is an online form. There are varying timeframes on which you need to submit that form, but basically any time that your PSAP has to take 911 offline for whatever reason, be it a maintenance window, be it a PSAP move, backroom equipment move, anything like that, we need that form filled out in advance. And that really kind of requests Comtech resources. It provides us notification. It might trigger ICN needing to move your circuit for 911. It does a lot of things. So just keep in mind that exists. It's on our website, and I sent out the link earlier this week. Finally, on this slide, you may have seen in the news, we've kind of gone through a couple directors lately. We do have a new interim director that was made official the end of last week, John Benson, who many of you know. He was a prior 911 program manager for us and had been our chief of staff for the last couple of years, has now been appointed as the interim director. Don't really think that'll have much impact on 911, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. Any questions before I move on? Okay. To give you a snapshot of where we're at on the wireline migration, here is the updated map. At this point, every county or PSAP that's remaining kind of has similar hurdles to clear, but they're all kind of related at the same time. So we will kind of slowly pick these off as time goes, as kind of the technical environment changes and we're able to get those migrated.
Didn't know if he was on the phone talking to himself. Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. So going on to the GIS information, you can see in May, 8 counties met the benchmarks, and you can kind of see on the right-hand side there where we're at with period 2. 85 counties have now met the benchmarks, leaving 14 remaining. And I'll show you on the next slide which counties those are. A couple other things on this slide that I wanted to point out. We did have a webinar last month that kind of walks through the next phase of using the GIS data within 911 call delivery. That webinar was recorded and it's on our website, and we're expecting to start using that GIS data for basically the MSAG starting in the September or October timeframe. So again, there's about 14 PSAPs that have not met those benchmarks, and a handful of those are quite far behind, to be honest, with where they're at on their data. I'll be reaching out to those counties specifically to kind of talk through an improvement plan and get them caught up in the near future. Also a recommendation, really to stop waiting for the last of the month or the last month to upload your GIS data. A couple reasons. If there are changes that need to be made, now you're another month behind, or you're outside of the 6-month period altogether. So really the recommendation is to not procrastinate, get those uploads done either early in the month or especially not wait for the last month of the 6-month period. And I mentioned this before with the new contract that we signed with Geocom. They do have a boundary layer alignment project that they will be starting soon. And that really is to basically snap boundaries together as far as the GIS data goes. Where there's overlaps or gaps, those will need to be fixed before we can do this GIS derived MSAG. So they will be reaching out to, with counties and kind of try to mediate and walk through where those boundaries need to be. And there'll definitely be more to come on that. If your boundaries are good, you might not hear from them at all. But if there are those gaps and overlaps, they'll be reaching out. And again, here's the slide to show kind of the 85 counties that have met the benchmarks and their data is good to go, ready for the transition. And then the counties that have not met the benchmarks. And again, I kind of mentioned there's a small handful of these that are quite far behind, and then the vast majority of them, however, are really working towards those benchmarks, and they'll get there. No worries there. It's just the small handful that over the course of the GIS grant have kind of habitually not met the benchmarks. There are no training fund requests for this month, which means kind of the numbers that you see on the screen there are final. We used about half of the funding this year. Kind of attribute that to COVID for sure. Starting next month, we will kind of have that fund replenished back to $100,000 for the year. I will get that new application opened up here in the next week or two. So if there are training requests that need to be requested, that would be ready to go and ready to get approved in time for the July council meeting. Also on the agenda for later today, last month we approved the Fayette County Consolidation Grant. We kind of left the door open for some additional funding to them should they identify any more eligible costs. They have done that. So you can see that they've requested an additional $7,500 in grant funds. And I know that's an agenda item for later on. I just wanted to present it here to get it on everyone's radar. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Zetron for an update on the shared services? All right, and then I will turn it over to Lynn Warren.
Thank you, Blake. Good morning. Program updates. Lynn County and Page County went live since last time we met in May. And the next one up is Webster County is going live on June 23rd. Next slide, please. This is our snapshot of all the PSAPs that are live on the Iowa Shared Services Max Call Taking platform. And we're running at a rate of about 2 go live a month. And it's going well. Next slide, please. And as a reminder, if you'd like to see a copy of our monthly newsletter, the Iowa Insider, just send an email to me at lwarren@zetron.com and I will get you added to the subscription list. Any questions? Thank you.
This is Brian Hall. I have a question about Zetron shared service. Is
yes.
it dependent on optic, just like the outage we might be having?
I'm sorry.
One call.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Could you restate the question?
Is the shared services, the Zetron shared service, is that dependent on fiber optic as well?
Yes, we have. So we have 2 hosts that have connectivity to each PSAP. The primary connectivity is ICN, and that is fiber. We have a second connectivity that is FirstNet. It is through AT&T wireless. It is not dependent on the ICN. And for example, when we've seen these fiber issues happening over the last few days, we have seen out of our PSAPs, there were, I think, 25 times that our PSAPs moved from the fiber connectivity over to the FirstNet connectivity, but we did not see any outages from our host to our PSAP from the fiber. We are looking at the connectivity between the calls coming in from ComTac, and it appears that some of the PSAPs were affected by that. And as was said earlier, the calls were outrouted before they were delivered to us. But we do have what we're reporting a few months ago. We've called that the dual backhaul initiative, and all of our PSAPs now have this dual backhaul, which has the redundant FirstNet circuit.
That's a good explanation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that was a really good question too, Brian. I think, you know, in the midst of trying to cover that, those PSAPs with a secondary connection have remained up as far as we can tell.
And there is, Blake, this is Mike. There is also the 13 PSAPs that have, you know, the secondary ESI net connectivity that we're up to as well at the same time. And there is that secondary ESI net connectivity into the Zetron host. So they do have, you know, options for those calls to be delivered over a non-ICN network, even for there. And just one thing to add to that is the incoming calls are making it into the network because those are separate. What is being impacted by any of the ICN outages is just delivery of the calls on the NGCS network to the PSAP. It's just one part of the leg, if you will. But there are multiple alt routes in place, and as Lynn said, there are multiple other connections that are not IC independent. So we don't see, this isn't a hard down situation. And from a consumer standpoint, of 911, what will end up happening is for the most part that we'll either go to the last route only, or if they have a regional PSAP that is a kind of an alt route situation, it will go to them. So it has been, thankfully, it has been, calls have been delivered and it's working as designed. But as ICN is committed to, we are going to make sure that this does not happen and get the errors on the code fixed on our network. So.
Any other questions? And like I said, that we covered a lot today. If you just wanted to ask questions offline, that's totally fine too. Just get in touch with us, that way as well. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Rotter.
Okay, thank you, Blake. We'll go back to the top, and we now have a quorum. So if I could please get a motion to approve today's agenda.
Benson moves.
Mark Murphy, second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Okay, and those against, same sign. Okay, we'll approve. And then likewise, could I get a motion to approve the May 13th, 2021 minutes?
Sheriff, this is Mike Bryant. I'll make that motion. And I have one minor request. I was marked absent, and I was absent at roll call. I was actually traveling, and I was kind of on and off during last month's meeting. So if I could be at least partially present, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Any other changes? Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Kara, did you hear a second there?
I did. Mark Murphy.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those against, same sign, and the motion carries. Okay, as Blake mentioned, we do not have any training fund requests. That brings us to the consolidation grant approval. We have the Fayette County addendum, bringing the total to $284,694. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on that outside of what Blake has already told us? Okay.
Just Linda Vandervoort, I'm here, but I don't really need to speak unless anybody has questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Okay. Well, with that, I think Blake's pretty much brought that to everyone's attention, and we did discuss it in the last meeting about additional funds and these types of requests. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Approved.
Okay, and we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Benson.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those against, same sign. And the motion is approved. Okay, going on to technical advisories. Do we have any technical advisories? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Could we please get a report from the ISICS board? Chris Myers, are you on?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chair. Am I coming through okay?
You are. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir, and good morning, council. A couple of things today. We'll start with an ISIX usage update. This will address a few questions we've had from stakeholders recently on getting a hold of state radio or the state patrol troopers. You can use the regional call for that to call state radio directly, or if you see a trooper on mock, you can call them directly as well. That'll help expedite the processes, and we've been training that as well, but I wanted to make sure the word got out there because we did field some questions yesterday on that. As long as state radio knows that you're trying to reach the trooper, that's the main thing, and then they can get their paperwork started, and that troop will be able to assist. Quick update on the ISIX network as well. We are undergoing routine preventative maintenance across the network. If a site will be down for that maintenance, we're going to post that on status board under the new site status tab. That tab should have showed up last week or the week prior on your status board accounts. There is a sorting function built into status board as well. So if you go to that site status tab, click on the name twice, that'll put those sites that are going to be undergoing maintenance near the top because there'll be a status change with them. Right now, the Jones site is down for some routine maintenance. That should be back up in the next couple of hours. Next week, we have Fairfield undergoing maintenance on the 15th, Lucas on the 16th, and Appanoose on the 17th. So those are some sites that'll be down for maintenance next week. Again, this is just preventative routine maintenance. Generally, this is done on any radio network at least once throughout the year. Moving on with the status board update, we have some agencies sign up fairly routinely. Again, if you haven't done so, please do. It's a great way to have that coordination happen at the local level. There's no cost for access to status board, and we also have training available for you with that. Quick update on our TA requests. The virtual COML course, it will be from July 12th through the 16th. Again, we still have some seats available. If there's interest, please let me know and I'll get you the sign up link. Update on our SDR deployment in Clinton, that is still ongoing. Following some updates to that last month, things have been working fairly well with that. We have noticed some hiccups with the ICN on that, but it sounds like that's being resolved, so that's a good thing. ISIX regional training will be coming up. We've been talking about that for a while. We are tentatively looking at having a virtual training refresher on July 20th, starting at around 1300. That session should last about an hour, and that'll be a quick update for updates to ISIX standards and processes for those stakeholders. The thought was that, you know, if we could get this in before RAGBRAI, that would probably be a good refresher for everybody that's going to be involved centrally with that. We are looking at in-person training as well. Our kind of first run pilot is set for RIC 2 on July 29th. Sign-up form will be out for those sessions relatively soon here. We're working on locking down the next series of in-person regional trainings as well. That'll include sessions as well for status boards, so it'll be a good way to get some training on a lot of different things that are happening across the state. Again, for any of that training, there's no cost for that. That includes the one-on-one agency sessions that we've been doing as well. We just finished a bunch of those last month, and actually we were in one county yesterday following up with their dispatchers. ISIX applications approved last month. Harrison County, level 4 for infrastructure. City of Osceola signed up as a level 2 user for talk groups, and so did TIP Rural Electric Cooperative at level 2. We have 4 applications up for approval today. One is Burke County Emergency Management, that's in Nebraska for level 1. Butler County is updating their level 3 access today. Hardin County is signing up for level 2 access with talk groups, and Monona County is adding some more users to their application through level 3 access to ISIX. A couple of things for standards and policies for the board today. The LTE deployable policy is on the agenda. That'll hopefully go up for approval later on in the next couple hours. We also have a draft statement on conventional unit IDs for digital interoperability channels, the conventional type. We're hopefully going to be pushing that statement out, and that'll be a good way to tell who's who if someone's transmitting on some of those digital channels. It'll add some clarity as well as to who you're working with during an event if you can see that conventional unit ID. If there's questions on that, you can pose them to me offline. We're also looking at a proposed update to our ISIX MC12B, which gives guidance on conventional interoperability channels. Finally, with respect to board-related activities, we have new FirstNet sites over the past month. There are several of them. There was one southeast of Dubuque near Hanover, Illinois. That was just on the Illinois side of the river, but that does provide coverage for the Dubuque area. We had one in Clarinda, Lenox, Sharpsburg, Bedford, Stanton, one that was south of Indianola along Highway 69 between New Virginia and Liberty Center, one southwest of Cedar Rapids near Amana, and a couple near southern Iowa, High Point and Garden Grove, Iowa, and then one in Blockton. So the FirstNet deployment's been busy. Doubling back to an old topic too, Mr. Chair, I'm still working on trying to line up in-person meetings for this group and the ISICS board. I don't have anything new to report there, but I will hopefully have something for next month. That's my report. I can go ahead and take questions.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Moving on, we would get an update from Homeland Security, Cybersecurity Infrastructure. Jim Lundstedt, are you on the call?
Good morning, Chair. Are you able to hear me?
I am, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No report today. I would offer a reminder that as we continue as a nation to deal with an increasing number of cyber incidents, the constant reminder is that the initial vector that the bad actors are utilizing to get to us, whether in critical infrastructure or public safety, continues to be phishing emails. That's the initial vector to get into your system. And once that happens, bad things happen. We are continuing to develop some strategies on better education about ransomware. And for those who haven't heard the news, the United States was successful in intercepting and recovering some of the Bitcoin ransom paid with the Colonial Pipeline attack. And just reading this morning about the amount paid by JBS to attempt an unlock for their system. So that remains one of our highest threats right now to public safety and critical infrastructure, and just reminder to continue to be vigilant. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All right, I've already been notified by the chair for the baseline, or I'm sorry, the Chapter 34A Administrative Code Committee that there is not a report for that this month. Do we have anyone from the Baseline Knowledge for 911 Communications Professionals Committee that has any updates? Okay. Do we have any legislative issues that need to be discussed? Okay. I don't believe we have any unfinished business or new business, and we know that we don't have any travel requests. Is there any business from the floor? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move, Mark Murphy.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have a second?
Benson.
Thank you. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.